Start. Good morning, everybody. This is Carl Griffith from Graybar, and we're glad to have you today on our webinar via the G2 Talk network, our webinar called Data Center as a Living Infrastructure. Before we get started with our webinar series this morning, I want to go through a few of the things that might be important to us. We will take questions throughout the seminar, and you can submit a question on the Q&A box on the bottom of your screen. Just put your text message in there and it'll come our way. We'll hold all the questions until the very end of the presentation, and then we will respond to them. The ones we can answer online, we will. The ones we can't, we'll respond to you via email. Before we get started, I thought it would be important for us to understand a little bit about Graybar. Graybar is a premier distributor of data center electrical, cooling, and connectivity solutions that our customers use to construct, rebuild, or redesign seminars. We're glad to have you on our webinar today. If you have an opportunity if you would like somebody to help you with an opportunity to look at your data center or talk with you a little bit about your needs in the data center, we would be glad to respond to those needs. You can get in touch with us very easy via graybar.com. Our presenter today is Casey Adams. Casey Adams is the fiber optic product manager from CommScope. I know Casey very well, and we're very fortunate to have him as our presenter today, talking to us about data center as a living infrastructure. Without any further ado, I'm going to pass the baton on to Casey. Welcome, Casey, to our presentation today.
Thanks, Carl, and welcome everybody to the G2 Talk with Graybar and CommScope. We are excited to be here partnering with Graybar on this. My name is Casey Adams, as Carl mentioned. I'm the product manager on the CommScope enterprise side. As you can see from the title slide, our focus today will be based around an idea that is probably common to most, but can be one of the most frustrating and the largest part of design. As we move through these slides, feel free to submit questions online and let us know what your feedback is. A look at what happens as data grows and where it's coming from. In 2003, consumer bypassed businesses in internet usage. 7 years after that, internet video surpasses peer-to-peer as the largest consumer of internet video traffic. In 2011, the year of the 7 billionth human, we had an equal number of network devices. As you track along the usage curve, 2012 shows that internet video reaches 50% of consumer internet traffic. This is everything from Netflix, YouTube, Hulu, to something as simple as your online defensive driving course. Also, 1 million households will generate 1 terabyte of information per month. You can thank your kids for the Facebook photo updates, Twitter, Pinterest, and Instagram. The estimates for 2014 and 2015 are even more incredible. 1/5 of all internet video originates from non-PC devices, such as smartphones, tablets, and e-readers. We have also doubled the number of network devices compared to the world population, which is estimated to be at 7.2 billion in 2015. Internet traffic from wireless devices also has exceeded traffic from wired devices. And finally, overall bandwidth traffic is measured in the zettabyte realm. This is something that is equal to 1 billion terabytes. Looking at a forecast from 2009 from data centers worldwide discussing the compounding annual growth rate for the 2010 to 2015, we can see that some of the emerging nations are adding a substantial amount of IT spend to their budgets to support the demand from the consumer base. Asia Pacific in particular increases to 21% of the spend in 2015. That's roughly $26 billion. Eastern Europe is not far behind, with an estimated compound annual growth rate of 12.1%. With the previous slide's information and this slide growth expectation, you can imagine that data centers will be very necessary. But what will they look like, and how will they benefit customers, and how can companies maximize their ROI year over year? The desire is not to have a static data center that serves only one purpose. from one point in time, but to have a living infrastructure driven by the changing landscapes and the needs of the stakeholders. The idea of investment preservation comes into heavy consideration. How long will my data center be a positive generator for my company? When will I have to renew my embedded technology, and how will it happen? Can we design in the agility to change and adapt to the demands of the customer and technology in a suitable amount of time? And can we make decisions on sustainability through a design philosophy that allows for expansion or contraction with minimal effort while continuing service? And do that with the efficiency in a way that is beneficial to the stakeholders and the customers, and to continue to promote best practices and theory. Living infrastructure is an approach that lands on 3 stages of the data center design process. Walking through the design phase, the deployment or initial install, and the evolution of the installation to offer a comprehensive portfolio of structured cabling solutions and design tools that help drive smarter decisions, save time, labor, and installation costs, all while allowing for day 2 expansion and migration paths. The goal of this is not to define a bill of materials up front to design with, but an idea that the design will help identify problems and provide solutions, and ultimately bring to the forefront an integrated result that is best suited towards the near-term and long-term goals of the data center. The design phase is often the shortest timeline of most projects. The bid goes out, multiple players put together a response to an RFP or an RFQ and submit back. At that point, the data center stakeholders review the input and begin to make decisions. This can be a pitfall where the immediate here and now is addressed as budget and time constraints loom, but longer-term strategy is mitigated. In the design phase, it's best to start early. Based off of what I have previously said, early can be a matter of days or weeks, but consideration should be given to the modularity of the design and the modularity of the components, as well as the tenets of the best practices, both from the industry perspective and the corporate perspective. By having previously developed design reference designs, a fair amount of time can be saved because you're not starting from the ground up. By modifying your reference designs, whether through square footage requirements, heating and cooling, tower limitations, you're able to come to a bill of materials. Also, by using your existing reference designs, you have the benefit of knowing the different types of layouts and designs that will work and won't work for your application. The version 2 and 3 revisions become shorter and less traumatic. Ordering and pre-positioning becomes a real possibility, and you have an idea of what your growth plan will be as needs and requirements change. Not long ago, an emphasis for data centers was moved towards the term modular. Modular is an adjective that means composed of standard units or sections for easy construction or flexible arrangement. A simple analogy is a modular desk or a cube. One of the pioneers of the modular movement was Henry Ford, with the modular concept in the form of the assembly line. Each station did a specific task on the line, allowing that line to be replicated in multiple locations with similar outcomes. Going with a modular design from your reference guides gives you the ability to rapidly scale for ordering and delivery, as well as plan installation of the product more smoothly. Construction can run in parallel with each order, can run in parallel with each other. It becomes more independent from all other things happening and can exist at the same time. Because of the ability to pay as you grow through predictable expansion, thanks to modular scaling, you can also defer some of the capital cost until needed. You run a more consistent formula to understand cost, scrap, size, and power usage, as well as the bill of materials. And modular also allows you to right size for the installation. This can be done through technology-optimized architectures, allowing you to move away from the one-size-fits-all mentality. And because you know your expansion and growth path, you don't necessarily have to make each block the same performance level as the previous one. You have the ability to provide variations for needs and requirements. The great thing about modular is also the future refresh cycles can migrate to new architectures and technology platforms that are more beneficial to where your business is going. And finally, being able to standardize your operational support, knowledge that from one to the next, your installation will have a similar or same look and feel and function, allowing your team to be more effective in the management of it. One way we consider modularity may be at a higher level, like zones. In this example, we know that the server rows 1 through 7, not including 6, will take on the same layout from one to the next. In a real-world application, Zone 1 is installed today, but you have the knowledge of what the next 5 zones will look like. Not only is modularity important in the structured cabling world, but also in the world of power and cooling. How many square feet are you turning up? How many servers will be supported per zone? How will you manage the airflow and cooling? These are all questions that through the modular design process are more easily answered and repeated as the process of population continues. At a more micro level, we could look at Zone 1 cabinets and recognize that all cabinets will carry a similar design philosophy throughout. Much like we said in the previous slide, cabinet to cabinet may be the same, but zone to zone allows you to tier your approach as the needs and requirements are understood. The same holds true in the storage space. How much, how many, where, and when. All are answered more easily with a modular approach that allows consistent design throughout the entire area. Probably one of the highest benefits of the modular approach is the rapid installation that allows lower costs. How long will a crew be on site? Is there scheduled downtime? If there is, would you prefer to run your installations in parallel rather than serial? Using modular building blocks based around power and cooling as it relates to zones or pods, cabinets, and even pre-terminated fiber and copper solutions, you receive the benefits across the board, and this dramatically improves your data center infrastructure management capabilities. There is the opportunity here to include an intelligent network solution that will help to monitor capacity and even help in building your next zone or pod. The benefits of a modular deployment are a higher performance out of your products because it has been designed based off of best practices and real-world reference designs. The installation time is reduced because the common product use and familiarity with using that product from one to the next, which can relate to improved installation cost and reduced on-site problems. You are also better able to manage the predictable curve of costs, power, and space as you progress through the build. Some of the building blocks in the fiber world that have become more commonplace are fiber pre-terminated systems. Based on the MPO fiber connector, these systems provide the performance that systems are looking for in a bandwidth and loss budget while allowing for a higher physical density of connection points. The images depicted here are part of the Systemax Instapatch 360 fiber portfolio. The MPO to LC module in the top left allows 2 MPO connections on the rear and breaks that into individual multi-duplex ports on the front. This allows for aggregation points for improved density, as well as encourages the continued use of structured cabling. It also moves away from the home run installation of the past. On the right side, you have an MPO to LC fan-out cable. This is another form of the MPO modules and jumpers that allows for direct connect to equipment, but brings it back to a consolidation point on your trunk or backbone cable. The bottom right image shows a 72 fiber MPO to MPO trunk cable. Densities on trunk cables range from 12 fibers up to 144 fibers in a 12 fiber increment based on MPO. These trunks are built using OM3 and OM4 standards compliant glass. This ensures that the backbone to your system will have plenty of performance over time as applications change. The inner picture shows an MPO pass-through panel. This will be used to replace an MPO module and has a specific home for parallel transmission, both 40 gig and 100 gig. And of course fiber jumpers, the lifeblood of most systems today, allowing connection from equipment to trunks and modules. These are just a few of the performance building blocks on the fiber side that make designing and installing simpler. On the twisted pair copper side, even though that fiber is seen as the wave of the future, copper will continue to be a significant part of any system. This slide depicts products that are part of the Systemax Instapatch Quattro line. The idea of Quattro is to capitalize on the ease of use of a pre-terminated fiber MPO system and apply that to copper. Using a trunk cable made up of 16 pair copper, you have the opportunity to design a system that has a pre-terminated copper solution that enables less time in the data center for installation. The modularity of the product is based on 4 components. The first is the copper patch panel. This will accept a copper module, which in turn plugs into a pre-term copper trunk cable that is built to length for the customer and the design. On the back side of the module, you can also have fan-out cords to interface into the equipment. This is only one example of how copper has continued to improve itself, not just in performance, but also in the density and modular play that data centers are requiring so much of. To discuss modularity without going into the power portion would be remiss. The power bus design was one of the original footprints of the entire modularity movement. Having the capability to continually build out power runs from a main bus allowed for improved design of data centers, as well as better efficiency in power management, output, and fewer downtimes. In the same way the power bus works, this slide looks at how the IT bus works. The simple image shown is a cut and paste job. However, it speaks to the opportunity that a modular approach has for the entire data center. The fiber trunk cable and copper trunk cable are in the overhead rack, and this allows for a demarc point from backbone to cabinet cabling for each of these pods. These trunks break off into the overhead mini rack, where they have the opportunity to de-aggregate on the fiber side for multi-duplex patching or MPO and parallel transmissions, and also copper patch cords to run into the cabinet for equipment patching. For the Day 2 expansions, both migration and growth, this allows for smoother transitions to turn up ports as they are requested. As we look at some of the bigger building blocks, we see another example of modularity. This is a short review of self-contained cabinets that can be rolled in and turned up with PowerPoint and network connection. Pre-designed and configured at the manufacturer, these are roll-in or hoist into place ready for quick uptime requirements. These come with a customer-defined network equipment as well as storage or server electronics, a known power requirement, and self-contained cooling system. For the opportunity where internal floor space is no longer an option or the design calls out for a container block, the modular approach works twofold here. First, at the container level, the design of the container farm, the types of power requirements, the amount of pads or platforms needed, and the connection points to that container. Inside the container, it moves back to a traditional data center architecture on a moderated scale. There's the A and B networks to design for, the power to those networks, and redundancy, as well as the power backup. This may be the most dramatic type of living infrastructure that we see today. The last stage of the process is evolve, how to embrace scalability for organized growth. On Day 2, a well-thought-out design will be able to migrate from one application to the next with minimal disruption, provide for the reuse of bill of materials, and offer the opportunity to reuse parts from old design to new. This will make the migration path from 1 gig to 10 gig smoother and 10 gig to 40 gig and 100 gig simplified. Through plug-and-play expansion, you can remove the least amount of parts to improve your channel to the next level of performance desired. This is doable through a clear migration path that was pre-configured and also through managed growth. The hope is that the first part of your expansion is not to clean up or reconcile your existing infrastructure, but easily add to it. This will provide a data center with a stronger ROI and meeting changing business needs, as well as the opportunity to incorporate a truly intelligent management solution that records and assists in future changes and needs. What if your network could tell you what its capacity is with a simple query? What if it was able to maintain cable paths and connection points to assist in the design change? And what if you knew what your physical infrastructure was doing all the time? This is the goal of the Systemax iPatch system, with real-time information flowing up to the data center managers, updated records, and a simplified way to facilitate changes in the data center. iPatch provides that living view into your installation. Controls can be set up to identify ports that need to be active, changes that were not authorized, and a database of what you have installed and what grows and changes with your data center. A study that CommScope conducted regarding the cost of the modular system versus the cost of a fiber field term fiber system showed that while the upfront cost of a pre-terminated fiber solution may be higher, the pre-term systems may protect 57% of your investment by reusing MPO trunk cables and supporting apparatus for migration from 10 gig to 100 gig. The 3 bars on the left of the graph are a comparative analysis of the field term at 4 by 10 gig versus the pre-term at 4 by 10 gig. You can see in the aqua shows the higher cost rate, with preterm cabling producing an overall cost that is 22% higher than field term. However, the migration path is limited to 1 by 40 gig for field term, and the investment to bring the data center up to a higher speed would require a secondary dollar spend equal to 57% of your original cost estimate. Likewise, on the migration to 100 gig, the upfront is greater. However, the preservation is improved when a 100 gig becomes the common platform for fiber, not only in migration, but also in cost effectiveness. The same holds true here. Due to field termination not being able to support an MPO-based 100 gig system, a secondary spend equal to 57% of the original can be expected, and this is on a much larger fiscally speaking. In closing, the key takeaways from treating a data center as a living part of your organization are that with appropriate planning, you can prepare yourself for growth, virtualization, the cloud, or whatever comes next. By putting together reference designs ahead of any projects, like top of rack, middle, or end of row, and SAN environments, you can more readily adapt a proven design to your project. During the deployment phase, you have the opportunity to run a more cohesive and effective installation process through modular products and layouts. And finally, on the expansion, your growth is available to you as your demands require it, and allows your migration path to be clearly defined from the beginning. Thank you again for your time today, and thanks to Graybar for hosting a great event. I'll turn this back over to Carl.
Hey everybody, I want to thank you for attending our seminar today and participating with us in our G2 Live seminar series, or G2 Talk seminar series. Data centers is an important part of our lives these days, and growth continues in that particular space. We're very fortunate to participate with you in the construction of data centers as they become more important to us every day. Our seminar series will continue throughout the rest of this year and next year with a theme about data centers. And this was a wonderful overview of data centers and some of the issues that are with us every day when it comes to data centers. I was particularly fond of Casey's explanation of modularity in terms of data center, and also the planning aspects of making sure that your data center is ready to migrate for future growth. I don't see any questions on the screen, so we'll end our conversation for today. We thank you for your time, and we'll communicate with you via email, watch social media, either Graybar's Facebook page or our Twitter, or some of the other social media ways where we can communicate with you on our next seminar. Also, I wanted to let you know that the first 50 people that came up online with us today will receive a free cup of coffee, courtesy of Graybar. Watch your email inbox later today or early tomorrow for your email for a free cup of coffee. So we're glad to have that. I think somebody has one question. Well, it's Jamie from Wachter. He comes up and says thanks, and I want to thank you, Jamie, for participating with us today, and we're glad to have you on the seminar. We hope to see you on some others. Let's see if there's any other questions here. There was a question here about, is the presentation going to be archived? The University of Texas was online with us today, and they got on the presentation late and they missed part of it. And I just want to assure you that they will be archived on graybar.com. We'll send you Mr. Cruz. We'll send you a specific email telling you about where you can find that archive. But for everybody online, all of these presentations will be archived on graybar.com. Again, thank you for joining us today on the G2 Talk Network for our seminar series, and thank you very much, Casey and the folks at CommScope for your time with your presentation today. We really do appreciate it. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.